Well, fairground rides are great fun. We all love going to the fair and you're going to have a fabulous day there. So what we're going to do is design and make some fairground rides. So I'll show you some of the basic parts. We've got a foam block, which is a base. Now these sometimes have all of the foam sort of cutouts in them. And really, we don't need those as part of the project, but I don't want people to take them home, young children to take them home, because they might get into the hands of a toddler and then they might think it's something to eat. So maybe don't take those things home with you at the end of the project. I think we'll try and dispose of those in the appropriate place. So that's the base there, and it has up to 3 holes we can use. We might end up just using one of them, but there we go. Then we've got a foam wheel, so a circle with a small hole in the centre, and it's not very thick. And then we've got a foam cylinder. Where is it there? Foam cylinder. There we are. And we've got a plastic tube. We've got a wooden axle, and we've got a long paper tube. So that paper tube there was a foam block stuck in the end, but never mind. That's a paper tube there, and it's strong enough easily for our fairground ride sort of tower, if you like, the bit that stands up nice and high. So let's go through all the parts again and we'll try and work out what we're going to do with them. Well, if that's the base, that helps whatever we make to stand up. So it's the bottom part which rests on the ground. Now if we build a tower and then it's very, very heavy towards the top, it might be unstable and want to overbalance and fall over. So sometimes we end up, by the time you've finished, you've created something very big. It might fall over if you just balance it properly by putting a stone at the bottom or something heavy. Piece of plasticine, maybe some plasticine in that hole and plasticine in that hole. If there was a tower in the middle, then that helps it stand up better. So there's a thing to think about. Everything's lightweight today, so if you make something very tall, it might fall over. We can stabilize it and make it stand up properly if we put something heavy on the bottom, and that heavy thing need only be sort of bits of plasticine or a stone or a pebble maybe pushed into these other holes. Well, we'll come to that later. So if that's the base, and if the long paper tubes are the towers and you've got just one of them to start with, then we simply got to choose which hole to put it in. Now it is only paper, so let's not squeeze it and squash it and crush it, okay? But if we decide we're going to put it in that hole and we just stand it upright like that and then take a grip of it, we can push it in no problem at all, and it's gone all the way to the bottom of the hole. So there is our first little construction step, creating that tall tower. Now I can't really get the whole thing in the picture, can I? Because it's so tall. Fabulous. It's great when the models we make are nice and big, because they're much more realistic, because fairground rides are huge, aren't they? And lots of people are on them, all moving about at the same time. So we've got the possibility now then of building a tower. But if we want to attach something on the top of the tower, then what we end up doing is having to make holes in the paper. Well, no, that's not a very good idea. We could make holes through it, but these foam cylinders are much, much better. Now at the moment the foam cylinder is too big to fit in the hole, so what we're going to do is just squash half of it, squash, squash, leave the other half nice and thick. So just squash one half like that. See, I'm rolling it round and squeezing it, and now that end's smaller, twist and push, there we go. So half of it's gone inside the tube and half of it is still sticking out. And there we go, so that's our tower so far. Well, if we want to attach something to that, whatever we attach could stick out or turn sideways and stick out to the side. So it could stick up or it could stick out to the side. And of course, when you think about fairground rides, some are very tall with things that spin round on the top, but others are turned sideways and might swing sideways. A good example of this thing that swings, of course, is a pirate ship. not a very good drawing, but a pirate ship swings backwards and forwards, a pirate ship ride. But there are lots of other rides like the pirate ship which do that. Whereas a carousel ride might spin round and round. So we've maybe got to think about, do we want something that spins round on the top like that? Or do we want something that spins from the side like that? So we'll think about that in a minute when you see the rest of these little demonstrations. Well, we're going to bring in the rest of these parts now. Oh, by the way, I missed one. There's a tiny little yellow plastic piece there, and you'll see what that's for in just a second. Well, we're going to need a pencil today, and we're going to need a pencil sharpener. Now, you don't need the pencil sharpener for the pencil. We need it because you just need to spend a few seconds, look. Finished. Can you see what I've done? I've just made the end of the wooden rod a little bit smaller. It's always best to do the other end as well. There we are. So you don't need your pencil sharpener for very long, so you can share it with somebody else. So very small. I'm not sharpening a point on the end. The only thing with a point is the pencil, and we're not sharpening that either. So there we go. Look, tiny bit sharpened off the end. No point needed. All right. And then we've got our wheel. Well, the axle could fit in the wheel. It does spin, but it doesn't spin very well. So we call that wooden rod an axle. Axles and wheels spin much better if we have a smooth material in the middle of them. So I'm going to push and twist the smooth plastic tube right into the middle, and I'm going to push it in maybe halfway in and halfway out, so a little bit sticks out that side and a little bit sticks out that side. Sometimes when you design something you want most of it to stick out one way, but maybe you could decide on that later. Just for the moment, look, halfway in and halfway sticking out the other side, look. Same on both sides. Well, now if we put that axle back in, it spins really well. So our rides can be very, very fast. But now we've got to join them together. And if I was you, I'd be thinking, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a great big wheel that I want for my gigantic great carousel or my great big swinging Ferris wheel. That's not big enough, but it's a starting point. So if we want to fix this wheel on, we could fix it sideways like that, or we could fit it on the top. And we're going to use a pencil to make a hole. So what we'll do is, look, if you're going to make a hole in this form, it's best to take it out. Otherwise we risk damaging the tube. So don't make a hole in the thin part, it's in the thick part that sticks out, and we'll simply push and twist, push and twist, push and twist. Now usually you don't push things towards your own finger because you could put it in your finger, couldn't you? But I've just, in the foam, look, it's nice and soft, and you can just feel when the point's starting to come through. Then you can move your fingers like that, look, and there it is. So we've made a hole all the way through like that, untwist it back out again, and then the wooden axle fits in no problem at all. Now before we put it back on the tower, let's finish the wheel, look. The wheel could fit on the axle, and then we could have a little clip, and the little clip pushes on the end, and it just stops the wheel dropping off. So now let's gently push it back in. Give it another squeeze, and it's sprung out of it. There it goes. And there we are. Now we've already pointed out this isn't a very big wheel, and the big wheel is something that's a proper, fairground ride. Well, later on you'll be using card to attach to the wheel so we can make it as big as we want and as colourful as we want. So the big strips, look, are nearly as tall as the tower, and they could be attached on, and that would help us make a really fun ride. Well, that's the sideways sort of idea, where you can stick things onto the wheel and make it come out sideways and turn this way. But what about straight up in the air? Let's take it back out again. Take the cylinder out, and now drill from the top. So it's the thicker part, remember. There we go. Push and twist, push and twist, push and twist. Now you don't have to go all the way through, because we don't want the whole of the rod all the way through. But there we go. Now pop the wheel in, pop the axle in, and there we are again. Now I did mention sometimes it's good to have all of the plastic tube, called a bearing, all of the bearings sticking through. So I think I will this time, because it keeps it further away from the foam where it would rub. So there we are, look, now it's spinning. Pop it in, same as before, except this time it's upright and we can spin it round in that fashion. So there it goes. And then again, to make it bigger, we could add our pieces sticking out from the top. And there's a second video coming up, and what we'll do is we'll show you how to really make these properly. So we could spin something at the top like that, or we could spin something sticking out the side like that. So that's the first part, apart from the fact that you've got different holes. Well, if you come up with an idea, I mean there's lots of ideas you can do like this, but if you come up with an idea that's a bit different, and I'll just show you one of them, then you may be allowed to have a second tube. Now there's no point in everybody having a second tube just because the tube's there. It just depends on what you want to make. You see, if you do have a second tube, it's not very good for making gigantic, great, big wheels that sort of carousel type wheels and swings. Can you imagine all strings hanging down and then seats on the end? This is perfect for it. One tube in the centre like that. Or you might come up with another idea based upon it. But some ideas are better with two tubes. So let's say you had one tube there and you put the other tube next to it there. Well, now we've got two tubes and we've got the possibility of making something swing in between them. And what does that remind you of? Right, so sideways on, it might swing like that in between. So what we could do is take our wheel and fit it in the middle, but to do that we're going to need a hole that goes all the way through. Well, this one's already got a hole in it, and this one needs a hole, so we'll pop it back out, drill the hole through with a pencil. There it goes. Just temporarily take the wheel off for a second just to check. Look, yes, that's fine. Where's the other hole? There it is, that's fine. In it goes. In it goes. Now wait a minute. In it goes. So it's starting to get complicated now, the order in which you do all these things. And then there, don't think we need that clip now. And there is the possibility of the idea for our swinging pirate ship. So you can't make that one now. That was the previous example, but you can make one where something swings in the middle. And just a very quick sort of addition, look, if I was to take some sticky tape now and stick it on like that and then hang it there, and then we've got the possibility of our pirate ship. Now, you can't see it very well from that angle, but if I turn it sideways, there it is there, swinging backwards and forwards. Of course, you've got to make the pirate ship in card, or whatever it is that you want to make in card. And then you might want to look at sort of properly decorating it. Well, there's one more possibility. When you put something sticking out sideways from one tube, so I'll just show you that one, take that one out. When you have it, the rod sticking out sideways from just one tube, look, it can sort of dangle like that. Now some people put it in the middle and they might want one thing on that side, so you're back to one tube again, one thing on that side and one thing on that side. So that'd be really good. And sometimes people want something that sticks out a little bit further, so they would do this, look. They'd put both tubes in, but they'd put them closer together. They take that tube, that foam block there, foam cylinder, and they pop the tube through just like before. Sit here trying to find out where the hole in the tube is. There it is. Except now the two tubes and the rod sticking out sideways is a lot stronger, and that means you can put something heavier on the end without it sort of starting to sag and fall over. So that's just a third alternative for what to do. If you've got something on the end like that that could fall off, then usually we use a clip on the end, just like that. Be careful not to lose these clips, and when you're allowed to take these things home, don't let small children play with them, because those little clips could come off and they could be dangerous for a small child. So there again is that other idea for things that swing. Do you know, I'm thinking of a giant sort of propeller ride, me, when I see that one there. So there's all sorts of possibilities. Now it would be awful if everybody thought, I want two tubes, because that would sort of stop you from making the great big carousel ride that spins around like that, because this is a sideways sort of ride. So I think you've got to draw your idea out first and explain what it is that you want, and then if you need the two tubes, well, fair enough, as long as you can explain it. Fabulous. So we'll finish that video there, and what we'll do is come back next with all sorts of card things which can be added on.